Early pig care is where we're starting today, primarily aimed at nurseries. There's a couple comments about sow that would be of interest to sow producers, but primarily the folks handling nursery pigs. So overview, what are we going to try and cover during this presentation? Early pig care is, we're going to try and run through these 4 or 5 areas in the next 45 minutes. Starting pigs right for the right reasons. We're going to look at what the golden ideal is. If you could start with the right group of pigs, what would they look like compared to what do you receive on a day-to-day basis? We're going to look at nursery management as far as how we can actually intervene with the group of growing pigs to get them started right. And finally, and I need to give credit to the Pfizer folks for this one, there's a program of caring for starting pigs right, what they've coined as an individual pig care program, or IPC, and it goes into classifying pigs in terms of how much care they need, how we should care for them, how quickly you should care for them, and by going through this individual care program, it's like an extension of you start pigs right for the first 7 days, and then with an individual pig care program, you continue to treat them right for the next 6 or 7 or 8 weeks that they spend in the nursery. All right, let's go and get started on starting these pigs right for the right reasons. So, top of the list is the reason we want to start pigs right is for animal welfare reasons. If we can start these pigs well, if they perform well, the pigs themselves are clearly doing better. It's better for the pig itself. We also need to avoid a lot of public misperceptions. If there are people within the public that don't understand livestock production, certainly don't understand swine production, if they went through the math of we put 100 pigs in our nursery and 6 weeks later 5 of them are dead, okay, they can't comprehend that may be normal. You know, maybe 2 pigs out of 100 is normal, maybe 5 is normal, but to them a single loss is not normal. They don't understand that concept. And so we need to do our best to minimize the death loss. In other words, to start pigs better every day. The next good reason for starting pigs right is simple economics. We have sows that are making better reproductive gains every year. We have sows producing more pigs. We have the opportunity to handle more nursery pigs, but they need to be handled well, or else we're not going to be able to flow those pigs through our nursery. We have healthier, bigger pigs being weaned. Pigs being weaned at 17, 18, or 19 days are a lot less common now than they were 5 years ago. When we have someone hand us 21-day-old weaned pigs, we have an opportunity to really get those pigs to produce well, to perform well for us. But we need to start them right to get that maximum performance out of them. If you start pigs right, it's certainly the most efficient use of labor. I've had producers that struggle for 7 and 8 consecutive weeks trying to get pigs through a nursery, whereas more effort up front, more concentration on starting those pigs right would have saved them 5 weeks of labor. So again, just efficient use of labor is a really good reason to try and start pigs right. And finally, personal pride. I think as whether we're stock owners in a cow-calf operation, a swine operation, or you're a grain farmer, I think there's a personal pride that goes with being able to do well with whatever your part of the ag-related business is. So we talked about I mentioned golden ideals before. What I would like to see for pigs coming to nurseries today, minimum of 21 days of age. It's better for the sows, certainly better for the nurseries if we get pigs coming in at 21 days instead of 17, 18, or 19. Pigs that average 14 pounds. And I think here, yeah, 14 pounds is nice average. Understanding that that's an average is important. And we'll discuss this a little bit more in just a minute. Pigs with an age range of less than 7 days on the site. Regardless of whether you have one barn or whether you have 4 nursery barns side by side, on that site, if you really want things to work well, the ideal is less than 7 days of age range from the youngest to the oldest pig at the time that site is populated. We don't want more than 2 groups of pigs or 2 wean groups going into a particular airspace. If pigs are going into a barn on Monday, we'd like to see the rest of those pigs show up within a few days. Okay, Monday pigs arrive, Tuesday pigs arrive. If you got Wednesday and Thursday pigs, we hope that your shipments are sized or your barns are sized relative to each other so that you put Monday, Tuesday pigs in one room and the Wednesday, Thursday, or the next Friday pigs go into a different airspace. So ideally, again, ideally, no more than 2 groups of pigs in an airspace. From a health standard, a health status, we'd like to have PRRS negative, mycoplasma negative, and flu virus negative pigs. Again, these are ideals. And then finally, if you really want to do things right, a single source sow herd. Now, Dr. Mike Eisenmenger put this list together quite a few years ago, and he was very clear at the time. It's very difficult for anyone to meet all of these standards. But if you are the sow producer putting pigs into your own nursery, I would suggest you talk to yourself on the way home this afternoon and find out which of these you can work closer towards. Or if you're on the receiving the nursery pigs from a separate sow source, I'd suggest you have a discussion with the sow guy and see if you can get closer to meeting more of these ideals. What do we typically see in the real world? Well, typically pigs weaned less than 21 days of age. If you're receiving pigs from a sow farm that only weans once a week, there's going to be pigs less than 21 days of age arriving on that truck. It's inevitable. Again, it's not ideal, but we want to at least have an ideal target to aim for. Normal distribution, I talked about 14-pound average pigs within a group. If an average is 14 pounds, we all know that if you lined up pigs from lightest to heaviest and you draw the line where the average is 14. Within a normal group of pigs, there's statisticians use a term called standard deviation, which just describes how far out the weight spread across the load. If you had 1,000 head of pigs, you can figure, we'll start with, if you had 1,000 head of 14-pound pigs, average, 2/3 of those pigs from 14 will go 2 pounds high or 2 pounds low. Okay, so 2/3 of those pigs are going to be 12 to 16 pounds. We can certainly deal with those. There's another 1/3 of those pigs are split, about 15% light, 15% heavy. So now you're down to 10 pounds body weight on the light end if you want to cover about 95% of your pigs. Okay, 95% is still not 100. We still got 5% of those pigs left, so we're going to have 2.5%. Or out of our 1,000 pigs, we've got about 25 of those pigs are 6 pounds or more lighter than wherever your average is. I don't care how high your average is, there's going to be 2.5% of those pigs are at least 6 pounds lighter. And those are the ones that need special care, special attention, or they will not start right. So recognize that 14 pounds doesn't mean everybody weighs 14 pounds. It just tells you how light your light ones could potentially be on a group. We don't get pigs to fill barns all in one drop of the trailer. We have small flows, we have large barns. And so while we try and put no more than two drops of pigs within an airspace, sometimes we have to deal with more than that. We have sow herds that hand us PRRS, mycoplasma, or flu-infected pigs. Again, if you have the opportunity to work with your sow producer, or best yet, if you are the sow producer, it's well worth the discussion of what can you do within your own system to manage PRRS or mycoplasma or flu virus. We'll talk a little bit more about managing those later, but ideally we want to clean all three of those out so you don't have to deal with them. Finally, as you're going through this, pigs delivered over time, lightweight pigs delivered, pigs with health issues, we need to identify those pigs and we need to provide what they need as far as special needs: more heat, less crowded pen environment, more feeding, more of an early ration feeding. So as we look through our pigs, let's see if we can identify special pigs with special needs so that we can start the group as a whole off better. In managing these nurseries, regardless of whether it's the quote ideal nursery group or whether it has some real world complications, these are 10 issues that I think where we can intervene with each of these groups of pigs. And so we're going to spend some time going through these, and a lot of it may very well be review. In fact, I hope a lot of it's review. But I hope as we go through that list, we can pick out some nugget that goes, oh yeah, we could fix that real easy. Let's go ahead and do that on our next group of pigs coming in. All right, let's start down our list. On health. I said we'd like to have pigs that are free of PRRS, mycoplasma, and flu. PRRS virus, it's clearly a difficult issue to deal with. Within Cargill, we've had some PRRS issues that we cleaned up rather quickly. We've had some PRRS issues that we've dealt with for over a year on a cluster of sow farms that we're having a very difficult time getting a hold of. When we know that we are weaning piglets that are faced with the PRRS threat, when we know we're weaning pigs that are already circulating PRRS virus within their system, we will handle those pigs differently. We provide them a warmer barn. We'll heat the barn up 3 to 4 more degrees. We'll provide them extra, what we call our Nursery 1 ration. The way our rations are developed for our pigs, 3 pounds is a standard. Okay. Now within your system it may be different, but for comparison purposes, 3 pounds of Nursery 1 gets most of our pigs off on a really good start. Our PRRS pigs, they get 4 pounds. fact, some of those PRRS pigs actually get a pre-starter before they get their 4 pounds of Nursery 1. Those are the kinds of things I think is important for you to look at on your own operations within your own nursery sites if you have a PRRS issue to deal with. Mycoplasma, I think mycoplasma can be a big success story. A few years ago, we dealt with mycoplasma on a lot of our small pigs, like everybody does. Most every sow herd that's been in operation for more than 4 or 5 years has a history of having had mycoplasma. We have had for at least that long, as sow producers, we've had the opportunity to purchase mycoplasma negative gilts. Okay, that is an opportunity we need to take advantage of. The drawback is when you take mycoplasma negative gilts, clean gilts, and put them in a traditional sow farm, the day after arrival, you've got mycoplasma positive gilts now. Okay, we got tired of dealing with that. We also got tired of dealing with the extra cost of growing mycoplasma exposed nursery and finisher pigs. What we have done through a combination of vaccination, medication, and management is we have actually eliminated mycoplasma pneumonia from a number of our sow farms. In fact, we're in the process of cleaning mycoplasma pneumonia out of the rest of our Missouri sow farms. It's a serious project to undertake. There's some significant cost involved, but when you look at the return, that being you can bring mycoplasma negative gilts into a sow farm without exposing those gilts, without having those gilts go through a respiratory break and a cough and decrease production, and then you can send pigs out of that sow farm without the threat of mycoplasma, get them to grow better all the way to market. I think mycoplasma elimination is a very reasonable thing to undertake on any ongoing sow operation right now. Flu virus in pigs runs along the same problems as flu virus in people in that it changes regularly, and so the sow farms often have a difficult time trying to maintain flu virus stability so that they can send you non-infected pigs. So you don't have a lot of control on the sow end for flu virus, but the one thing you can do within a nursery setting is you can make sure that the people that are going into your nursery, whether that's you or the hired folks or the neighbor kid, you make sure that they don't drag flu in. It's certainly been documented that people carrying flu virus, people feeling like crap and sneezing and coughing and hacking going into a nursery will infect those pigs with flu virus, and those pigs will be sick. So protect your nursery, get them started right. If you have help that's suffering from flu, and I think we're still within 30 or 40 days of the flu season, people being vaccinated for influenza virus is good protection for pigs. People staying out of the barn while they're sick with flu is good protection for pigs. So that health issue we can deal with from the people side. The other diseases on the nursery, these are less common nursery infections. APP is a pneumonia issue. The two on here that are probably worth note is TGE virus and swine dysentery. Okay, those are not typically nursery diseases, but they are diseases that you can track back to a nursery site with transportation movement. So I think it's important, again, if you're the trucker for your pigs, you can talk to yourself on the way home tonight. Just don't let anybody see you doing that. If you have someone else trucking your pigs, I think it's important that everybody recognizes the importance of clean trucks. You can be, if you're taking the last set of 40-pound or 50-pound nursery pigs off your site and they're getting dumped at a finisher that has TGE or dysentery, and I warn you, dysentery is alive and well. It's not been eradicated. If that truck backs up to a finisher site to unload your last set or your second last set of pigs, and the trucker or the producer on that end walks TGE or swine dysentery onto the truck, hauls it back to your place to get that last load of pigs, you will have a problem with your next set of nursery pigs because they will then be infected. So again, let's start your next set of pigs right by making sure we don't infect your facilities or your site with any of these diseases. Let's move on from health to pig size or distribution. I guess I talked through part of this already. Again, if you have a 14-pound average, that's just the average. We've got pigs on the bottom end and the top end of that. And this goes through the math I was talking about before. 2.5% of your pigs are going to be, if you want to call this 2-pound gap, the standard deviation, if you want to just call that a 2-pound gap, no matter what your pigs start out at least 2.5% of those pigs will be 2 notches below the average. So just simply be prepared to handle those pigs. I think as an industry standard, I don't think we should be accepting, as nursery producers, I don't think we should be accepting pigs less than 6 pounds. Simply because I don't believe we have the facilities and the nutrition to care properly for a 6-pound pig. So let's talk to the sow folks and see if you see between you where you can draw the line so that he gives you pigs that you have a good opportunity to start. And I would suggest 6-pound pigs is probably not on the right side of the line. Feeding for the right start. Again, a little bit on the sow side so that you have the right communication with the sow fellow who's sending you your pigs. Creep feeding, I've been on sow farms where they throw creep feed down when they put the clean mat and turn the heat lamp on the day before the sow farrows. Okay? What is the point of that? Okay? The point for creep feeding is not to put weight on a nursing piglet. The point for creep feeding is to allow that pig an opportunity to just get the feel of dry food in his mouth. I would expect that 21-day-old pig, I'd expect him to live 17, 18, or 19 days on nothing but milk. Okay? The last 2, 3, at the most 4 days before he goes on the truck out of the sow farm is when he needs a handful of pellets in front of him. Okay? Anything prior to that is a waste of good nutrients. Okay? We're not trying to put pounds on a pig in a farrowing crate with the use of creep feed. We're simply trying to get that pig used to the feel of creep feed. So the last 3 to 4 days, amount-wise, we're talking maybe 2 pounds for the entire litter. Okay? So anyone that buys a nursery feeder with a 4-pound hopper on it, I'm not sure what the other 2 pounds are for. There's just no use for it. So in a farrowing crate, 2 pounds of feed is more than generous to get those pigs acclimated to what dry feed is when he's been living on soft sow milk his whole life. After those pigs arrive at your place, then we need to have dry feed available. It needs to be available immediately. Mat feeding is important. I think mat feeding, to start pigs out right, I think mat feeding twice a day is very appropriate. If you're mat feeding pigs 5 and 6 times a day, I'm afraid that what you're doing at that point is you're training those pigs to wait for you to walk down the alleyway before they get up and eat. Okay? We don't want to go that far. Good science has shown that if you mat feed pigs twice a day, giving them enough area, enough room to eat, if you mat feed pigs twice a day, they will get up, they will get the texture, they get the feel, they get some energy, they get some nutrients out of that feed, and they will be up looking around for more of it. Okay? So twice a day is sufficient. Antibiotics is something that's pretty farm specific as to what type of issue you want to deal with. Finally, on feed targets, I think watching how many pigs are up and eating, or looking at pigs within a pen and determining how many have full bellies, how many of those pigs have actually been up and eating feed is important. Within the first 24 hours, pigs that come in at 8 o'clock Monday morning, by 8 o'clock Tuesday morning, I want 90 to 95% of those pigs to have a full belly. Okay? They should have found the feeder, a couple of hand feedings, and then the feeder overnight. They should have a full belly. So that's 90 to 95% of the pigs should have a full belly 24 hours after arrival. You go another 24 hours, you ought to be up to that 97, 98%. And by 3 full days, so now on Wednesday from these Monday arrived pigs, everybody should be on feed. The pig that doesn't have a full belly 3 days post arrival or 72 hours post arrival needs individual care. Okay? He's either overcrowded, he can't find the feeder, there's something wrong with that pig and he needs help, so we're going to pull him out and manage him independently. But let's watch what I consider on-feed targets to make sure these pigs are getting to the rations they need. Making sure we have water. Water should be easy and available. I like to see what we call nipple bars. We'll have anywhere from 8 to 15 nipples lined up on a bar just 6 inches off the floor of our wean to finish barns. Okay? Those pigs are used to lining up at the sow and everybody drinks. We're going to line them up at the water and get everybody to drink. I don't think 1 cup water or 6 cup water scattered around the room has the same attractiveness to a pig as a nipple bar lined up where they can go up there. Excess water intake, yes?
How many pigs per nipple?
8, no more than 8. Yeah.
So you should have
In a hunt.
nipples that you got 8 pigs per nipple in the pen.
In a 100-head pen, we'll have 12 nipples. Yep. A couple bars of 6 at least. Yep. Excess water intake. There is a problem if you add flavoring agents or water attractants to your water. Pigs can drink so much water that they feel full, they feel satisfied, and they don't then consume enough dry feed. So I would hesitate to add any flavoring agents or sweeteners or sugar solutions to your water. I think pure water, clean water, and then feed as the other option is the right way to go. Evidence of dehydration. If pigs can't drink, if they can't find the water, if the water didn't get turned back on after you power washed, if you have a problem with your well and the water supply is not sufficient, what you will most likely see, or the thing I would suggest you look for, is pigs that don't have those bellies full. If after 24 hours you don't have 90% of those pigs with a full belly, in other words, they're not eating feed, you can make sure there's feed in the feeder, but I'd also make sure there's water coming through to the pigs. Okay? Feed consumption is your best indicator of how much of feed consumption is your best indicator of whether the pigs have ample access to good quality water. Finally, water acidification. I downplayed adding flavoring agents to the water, but I will encourage you to add water acidifiers. Okay? Different purpose. The water acidifiers, we won't go into brand names at this point, but water acidifiers go into the pig's intestinal tract, and they come close to maintaining the level of acid that a normal pig has, with stomach acid going down through his intestinal tract, and that acidified water will help to grow normal bacteria, the types of bacteria that typically grow in the pig's intestine, and decrease the risk of unwanted bacterial growth, unwanted E. coli and salmonella. So I do think water acidification, at least for this first week while we're trying to get these pigs started right, and oftentimes on through a second or a third feed change. When we change rations, having acidified water is one way to stabilize the change that pig's intestinal tract has to go through. So we've got feed, we've got water. I talked a minute ago about transportation. Pigs that are being transported any amount of distance, long or short, need to be in clean, dry environments. They need to not be crowded. They need to have ample room to move about. Pigs that are crowded, crawling on each other, getting bruised, are not going to be up and eager to move around when they get to the pen. So work with your transporters to make sure pigs are transported correctly. Along the lines of transport, a few years ago, people were really excited about double stocking wean to finish barns. And at the time, for economics, that made sense. Gas was cheap, trucks were cheap. Okay, concrete was expensive, so let's put as many pigs in a barn as possible at 40 pounds. We'll pull the overstock out, and we finish growing the rest of the pigs. I would suggest that the industry is going away from that. When we look now at the importance of having a clean truck for every pig, clean trucks for every pig movement, the advantage of putting a lot of pigs in a barn and then having to haul 2 or 3 or 4 clean trucks back to move half of those pigs to another site, the cost of washing that truck properly becomes almost prohibitive. You also have, regardless of the quality of the barn, you will have less performance in a double stock barn than you will a single stock barn. Now, somewhere in between there, maybe it's a stocking and a quarter, maybe it's a stocking and a half, but I don't think it's double stocking anymore. I don't see that as the best method to go. There may be times of the year, there may be situations within a system when double stocking is done, but as a whole, I would suggest that double stocking wean to finish barns is probably not going to occur on a regular basis anymore. Vaccinations. Not all vaccines are created equal. That reference has to do with, pick your disease, whether it's mycoplasma, circovirus, erysipelas. We've got lots of choices from various companies on various products, and they're not all created the same. And so you need to know what product gives you the best protection for the disease issues that you have to deal with, and you need to be aware of what giving those vaccines to those pigs, what the unintended consequences are. Pigs will respond to vaccines. Oftentimes they're sluggish, they're lethargic. They're like a bunch of preschoolers that have been vaccinated and now they don't feel good. They're running a low-grade fever. They're kind of grouchy for the day. Okay? That happens. Okay? If the advantage of the vaccine overrides that negative cost to your system, then the vaccine is a good thing. But I think you need to measure that and be aware of it. And in addition to the flu response, in addition to the pigs being off feed, maybe it's 6 hours, maybe it's 24 hours, depends on the vaccine. You also I would suggest you also take into account the actual site of the injection. Some vaccines will create a larger injection site reaction than others. Okay? The vaccine that creates the injection site reaction on more pigs versus less may or may not be the good vaccine for you. Okay? You need to determine that on a case-by-case basis. If that's the vaccine that creates the best protection within your herd, then that temporary site reaction at the pig might be very acceptable. But you need to be aware that those things happen. Before we leave that topic, there was a concept at one time about, oh, I got the biggest reaction I ever saw in that bunch of pigs. You should have seen their necks, what they look like. I bet that's the best protection I'm ever going to have. Okay? That is not true. Okay? You can get good protection with a lot of local reaction. You can get good protection without any local reaction. Some pigs get good protection. Some groups of pigs get good protection being off feed for half a day, and some are off a full day, and they're still not protected. So don't tie reaction to expected protection. You need to look at performance of the pigs and tie that to the level of protection, and then use that information within your system. Finally, pre-wean or post-wean. Again, if you have a close relationship with the sow guys that are producing your pigs, I would suggest pre-weaning vaccination. A, it's easier on us. B, it is easier on the pigs. There are systems where they will intentionally pick up pigs 2 days before weaning, vaccinate for things like mycoplasma or circovirus or erysipelas, put those pigs back on the sow for a day and a half to 2 days, and then they wean them. And when that whole chain is tied together from the sow farm to the nursery to the finisher, those are the pigs that do the best. Okay? Within your system, that may not be practical, but I'd sure have that discussion with your sow guy as to whether you can move your, oh, this is wean day, we're going to line these pigs up and they're all going to be vaccinated before the day's over. Let's see if we can vaccinate them 2 days before wean day is over for the health of the pigs, just to get them started right when they hit the nursery. People. On that list down near the bottom, we talked about having the people to get the pigs started for the right start. I'm not sure this list is a lot different than people that do well at anything, whether it's cow-calf operation or livestock producers or grain producers. People that do a good job with pigs are going to be organized. They've got a long list of things to do for the day, but they're going to do them in such a way that they get their job done by the end of the day. They're compassionate. That's one thing you do need to do if you're handling livestock as opposed to throwing corn seed in the ground. A little bit of compassion with pigs or calves goes a long ways. Okay. Finally, detail-oriented. And we'll get to the details on when we talk about the individual pig care, but I'll just toss that up for now. Finally, as far as having people, there are it's becoming common to have starting crews. We used to talk about marketing crews. We used to talk about vaccinating crews. We're talking about 7-day care crews, people that come in that can look at the details of feeders and waters and get those pigs started right. Within your system, who's the best person with the pigs? Maybe they need a vacation from cows, calves, and row cropping. This needs to be their week to work with the pigs. We'll see if you can get that done. And finally, extended hours. I don't think it takes 24-hour day care to start pigs right. I think it takes 8 hours of the day done really, really well, but it doesn't take 24 hours a day. Someone that spends 24 hours a day is probably missing one of these characteristics up at the top: organization or detail orientation. The last of these topics for getting pigs started right is individual pig care. And again, this is a program that the Pfizer folks have put together. They've worked through a number of swine systems with this program. They've worked with Cargill with it a few years ago, and I think it has paid some real benefits. It's given our people a program to look at. We've all talked in the past about healthy pigs and sick pigs. Okay, what this program does with individual pig care is you take these sick pigs and you divide them out into A's and B's and C's, as far as how sick, what care do they need, what type of response do you expect. So I'm going to run through this individual pig care program here shortly, and then we'll run some time for questions. All right, so individual pig care. Again, individual, because we're trying to get away from saying, I'm feeding this barn of pigs. Okay, I'm feeding this group of pigs. Okay, no, we're not going to feed this barn of pigs anymore. We're going to feed individual pigs. Individual pig care certainly starts at the barn, but then we need to follow the details down through. Walking through the barn, should include 3 levels of observation. The first level is going to be the barn level observation. Your first step or two inside the barn, we ought to be sensing the temperature, the air quality, the humidity, any strange odors, the amount of noise. Are those pigs up and moving around? First thing in the morning, those pigs ought to be rustling around. Middle of the afternoon, they could very well be resting. But you need to have a concept of what's happening within the barn within the first few steps inside. Okay? Once we've made an accounting of that, we'll proceed down the alleyway and we'll go to the next step, which is pen level observations. At the pen level, we'll be looking at feeders. Are they appropriately filled? Do they have the right rationing to start with? We'll be looking at waters. Do you have water access? Do you have water at the water nipples? We have fans that are running that are supposed to be running. If you have a 36-inch fan running with a bunch of newborn pigs in the middle of the winter, something's not right. Okay? If you didn't notice it when you first stepped in, you certainly will notice it when you look at that pen and you see that fan running. So again, we start at the barn level, then we go to the pen level, look at feeders, waters, environment. How are the pigs laying? Are they clustered in one corner? Are they spread out evenly? Is the mat board there? Is it available for feeding if this is the first day or two after those pigs are weaned? And after we've done that, after we've gone through the barn and the pen level, we'll go to the individual pig level. And this is where the A's and the B's and the C's comes into play. So individual pig level, we had a hard time agreeing at first, but we came to the understanding that it doesn't take but a second to look at a pig. I mean, to actually look at a pig, you have 20 pigs, well, small pen, large pen, 20 pigs or 100 pigs within a pen. You can look across those pigs and you can catch those pigs from head to tail and top to bottom, and it doesn't take but a second a pig to identify who stands out. Okay? And those are the ones we're looking for, is who stands out. A second per pig on a 1,200 head barn, that's 20 minutes. Okay? That's probably the best 20 minutes spent in that barn. From there, you go on with medicating, treating, or choring. But this 20 minutes outlines your day and gets everybody in the mood of, or the understanding of what needs to be done. Use time wisely. So, the first 20 minutes I think are very well used minutes. We're going to talk more about the A versus B versus C here in just a minute. As we're going through individual pigs, the one note I want to put down here from a report, and again, this was put out 4 or 5 years ago, but people asked one time, how many pigs should you treat? If we're talking about individual pig care, what's a range, or at least a common number for how many pigs to treat? Within a nursery, over those 7 or 8 weeks in the nursery phase, individual treatments, individual injections, out of 1,000 pigs, if you've treated 100 or 200, you've probably missed some opportunities to help some pigs do better. A good average or a good minimum is 30%. That's 300 individual injections on a 1,000 head nursery. Okay? There's a lot of people doing a lot less than that, but there's also a lot of pigs that could be doing a lot better performance-wise. So now, that 30%, those 300 injections on 1,000 pigs, most of those will come within the first 2 weeks, but there will be some that trail out throughout the nursery phase. So anyway, so those are targets. Nursery phase, 30%, early finishing, another 10%, individual needles in those pigs. Okay, I made a lot of references to A's and B's and C's. I'm going to run through these pictures up here, but I want to make sure everyone's aware there are plenty of posters and there's some handouts here that talk about the A's and the B's and the C's. And on your way out, I'm hoping, like I said before, most of you will come by and pick these up and take them home and give them some serious thought. So, again, there are healthy pigs, and then there's pigs to treat. The A is the first pig we want to try and find. An A pig, this character still has all his body fat. His belly's probably still reasonably full. He's certainly not lost any muscle whatsoever. Okay? But his head's down. We walk down the alleyway, his buddies all perk their heads up, and this guy's head just kind of hangs there. He knows we're there, but he doesn't quite care. Okay? That's an A pig. The B pig, again, he doesn't quite care that we're there, but he's getting a little crusty. He's actually lost some body fat. Okay? Now, does he have a backbone? No. Okay? How many people routinely look for pigs without a backbone to inject? Okay, we've already gone through 2 phases of them that should have been injected, should have been individually treated or cared for in some manner. And then finally the C pig, that's the poor little character that gets treated on a regular basis, unfortunately. Okay, and I say unfortunate because I'd much rather see this guy treated a week ago when he looked like this, or better yet, 10 days ago when he looked like this. We're going to go through some more of the details on this, but this gets you the idea of the A's and the B's and the C's as we go through this discussion. So, all pigs start out as A pigs. Like I said, an A pig is, if you just run down the alleyway and make sure everybody runs across the pen as you're hustling by, you'll never find an A pig. Because A pigs look a lot like the rest of the guys. They've still got some belly to them, some bloom. Their hair coat's still slick. Their only problem is they just aren't quite feeling as good as their buddies. I like to describe an A pig as the pig that's going to be sick tomorrow. Okay, we're in the barn today, but if we can find the pig that's going to be sick tomorrow, get him and individually treat that pig, he won't ever make it. He won't ever see his sick day. Okay, he'll be up and running around. Individual treatment on these pigs, I'm talking about injectable antibiotics. The choice of antibiotic depends on what the sow farm has sent you for pigs. It depends on the history of what you've got going on within your own operation. So I will just leave, in general terms, individual pig care is an injection of antibiotic, whether that's penicillin or Exceed or Baytril, Nuflor. I mean, the choice is between you and your health provider and the source of your pigs. But that's what we're talking about for individual pig care is injectable antibiotic. If you find one of these A pigs and you get him, you inject him, you individually treat him with an appropriate antibiotic, you probably don't need to pull him out. He's still got a full belly full of feed. He's not off feed yet. You can inject that pig, individually treat him, leave him in his pen. He knows who his buddies are. He knows where the feed and the water is. And tomorrow, I would bet that there's an excellent chance you won't be able to find him again. Okay, that's individual care for an A pig. Again, I'd suggest this guy in the bottom right-hand corner might be heading towards B. But these A pigs up here, one dose of the appropriate injectable antibiotic, and they're on their way through the nursery phase. B pigs. First key point that the Pfizer folks want to stress through all this is that pigs don't just get up in the morning, draw a card out of the deck, and say, oh, crap, I'm a B pig. Okay? They all draw cards out saying they're A pigs. It's when they get missed as an A pig that they become B pigs 2 days later. So if you find him as a B pig, what you will see is a pig that's lost his belly now. Okay, he's thin, he's gaunt, he's definitely lost his body fat. He's not had a good meal for a couple of days. His muscle quality may not be bad yet, but he's definitely lost all his body fat. So those guys, because obviously they're feeling poor enough, they're not getting to the feed and the water. They need an individual treatment of the antibiotic of choice at your farm, and they need to be pulled out and put into a pen with less competition and better access to feed or water. Okay. So B pigs get pulled. A pigs don't necessarily need to be pulled. So here's some B pigs. Again, this guy's lost his body fat. His belly's empty. This guy's sucked up. He's lost all the body fat between his shoulder blades. He's actually a humpback pig, which is another problem. But regardless of that, these are all various stages of B pigs. And then finally, we've got C pigs. And again, the reason he's a C pig is because someone is on I'm not sure if they're on let's treat pigs every other day, or let's treat pigs Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Or maybe it was, I had a lot of stuff going on this week, so we only treat pigs on weekends. If you treat pigs on weekends, I guarantee you're going to be putting needles into a whole bunch of C pigs. Because on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, you missed all the A's and the B's, and everybody fell into C's when the weekend rolled around. So, individual pig care, the caveat is, it means everyday pig care. Pigs that are C pigs, advanced illness, those pigs have not only lost all their body fat, they've actually lost muscle mass. Their heads are hanging. There's no food left in their bellies. C pigs, unfortunately, are very close to what we've called E pigs. Okay, we just skip D, go right to E for euthanasia. Okay, that's not successful management if you're treating a bunch of C pigs close on the way to euthanasia. We're talking about response to treatment. I'm going to skip through this for just a second. Here we are. That's what I was looking for. The Pfizer folks have worked with a lot of companies. They don't have a research farm that says, okay, we treated 100 A pigs and 100 B pigs, 100 C pigs. Rather than a research situation, they've talked to producers and said, so what happens? If we train you and you understand what an A pig is, and over your next few groups of pigs, if you treat 100 of these little A characters, what happens to those pigs? And the resounding response is, oh, we get 75 or 80% of those pigs get one injection. We don't have to mess with them again. They're up and running. They're done. If you start treating B pigs, if you keep a tally of B pigs, about half of those pigs are going to be looking better after a few days. If you're coming in there once a week, because, the kids are available on weekends, we're going to go treat nursery pigs. It's Saturday morning. If that's your pig treatment program, a fourth of your pigs may get better. The rest of your C pigs, which is where a lot of them will be standing by the weekend, the rest of your C pigs end up in the euthanasia pile. Now, I hear about this from kind of the flip side. It's, I don't know why you gave us this Exceed, Draxxin, Baytril, Penicillin, whatever the list is. I don't know why you gave us this stuff. We shot 6 bottles of it, and nearly every pig died. Okay? That's the point where we start getting really, really concerned about how many sea pigs are getting treated. Because treating a sea pig is a guarantee for a treatment failure. So that's where all of the A and the B and the C classification goes. I think it's really good training. I think there's a lot of good information up here. If you can get a picture in your mind of A versus B versus C, I think it can really improve your success rates. And doing that initially gets the pig started right. Doing it on through the nursery group will certainly help performance throughout the nursery. A couple other points. I think photos are good. Again, as you're looking at these pigs, look at every pig. It doesn't take but a second. There's 3 things to look at on these pigs as they're standing there in front of you. Look at their heads. Are they up and looking at you, or have their head hidden? Look at body fill, which is an indication both of water access and feed availability. Are those pigs filled out, or are they sunken-sided because they haven't eaten? And finally, look at their general attitude. When a healthy group of pigs goes running across the pen, and these 3 guys just drag along behind them, they cannot keep up, those are the pigs we should be treating. Now, I hope we're treating those 3 drag-behind pigs at a point in their life when they're still full of feed, they just don't feel like running. Okay? At that point, there are A pigs. We'll treat them. Tomorrow, they'll be running with the herd. Now, if those 3 drag-behind pigs have no muscle mass left, and they're wobbling as they try to move, we're looking at C pigs. And I won't guarantee any success on those guys. So anyway, it's up to the labor in the barn to try and find the pigs early and expect good success at that rate. So starting pigs right, we need written protocols. The information I went through on the first half of the presentation about transportation and vaccine and health, I think having written protocols for the sow farm to transfer information to the nursery so the nursery has the right expectations, I think written protocols are important. I think health is king. I think we've got to have healthy pigs. If there's things you can do at the nursery level to provide proper warmth and ventilation and nutrition, that's good for health. If you can talk to the sow folks about their health and its effect on your pigs, that's even better. And finally, I think it's important for everyone from the sow side all the way to the finish to recognize that those first 7 days of performance in the nursery actually sets the stage for the next 23 weeks of growth. One of the studies that was done, a true study that was done on nursery pigs is some fellows looked at the difference in the pigs that gained. They took a group of pigs, looked at weight gain over the first 7 days. They split it into the half of the nursery group that grew the fastest in the first 7 days and the half that grew the slowest. And the difference from then through marketing was, in terms of total growth, if the pigs grew at the top half through the first 7 days of the nursery, they were 10% faster going to market than the ones on the bottom half. And on a mortality standpoint, the pigs that were on the bottom half of the growth for the first week of the nursery had between 70 and 80% of the mortality from then all the way to slaughter could be traced back to pigs that gained at the slower half of the rate in the nursery. So certainly that first half of performance the performance in the first week of that nursery has an impact all the way to slaughter. So I think it's important that we take advantage of all the tools we have to make that work.